Ever since his first appearance in Street Fighter II The World Warrior in 1991, Zangief is one of the most memorable and iconic video game fighting-based characters to have ever been conceived of. While Zangief has had many moves associated with his wrestling style, the final Atomic Buster became his most definitive as well as defining attack. But the speculative scenario is this: what were the exact details for Zangief's final Atomic Buster? The attack was introduced in Super Street Fighter II Turbo and has reappeared in some way with all of the appearances of Zangief in Street Fighter II game installments throughout the years and even decades since its first depiction. The lore and backstory for Zangief had it that he wanted to create a wrestling technique that would literally strike fear into his opponents when he used it, and for the said attack to be the most devastating wrestling technique to have ever been conceived of. The exact origins of the attack actually vary somewhat from game to game, or depiction to depiction. However, one of the most well-known origins had Zangief training in the Ural mountain range in Russia. Zangief was training his body and mind harder than he had ever had before, and yet he couldn't figure out an attack against opponents that could take advantage of his wrestling background. Unknown to Zangief, a blizzard had swept through the mountain range, and before he knew it, he was caught up in it. The storm was particularly intense, as fierce winds even swept a large man like him up as the raging storm repeatedly slammed him upon the ground before it brought him back up, but then again onto the ground. Finally, a massive gust of wind spun him up into the air and finally dropped him upon his head. The blizzard subsided as Zangief slowly sat up upon the ground. Taking a moment, he then finally had the inspiration for a new attack as he laughed. His laughter echoed across the entire mountain range as he came up with a grabbing technique with multiple slams with a final devastating spiral slam based upon the experience he had while training. This was the final Atomic Buster. Lore and dialogue in the Street Fighter games mention that the Atomic Buster was Zangief's final attack, so technically, depending on the circumstances, Zangief would only use the attack as a last resort against an opponent, or during a match with an opponent he would use the attack to definitely finish them off with. Despite to the contrary, when in the games, through critical, lethal, and super art gaming mechanics, has Zangief able to use the attack or modify versions of it whenever the player assuming control of him were to have had an opportunity during a match. Technically, first appearing in the Marvel vs. Capcom series was the Siberian Blizzard, as in that version had the machine Zangief rise into the air, if possible, hitting the opponent with multiple double lariat attacks of Zangief's. The modern version of the Siberian Blizzard had Zangief jump up into the air and spin through the jump with his arms outstretched on hands ready to grab the opponent. If he is successful, he'll pull them into an airborne headlock and fly up higher into the air, as he then flip and grab them in a clutching hold and slam them headfirst into the ground.